are not allowed to sue the company. Do you know that you agreed that instead of going to a jury, that you have to go to a private arbitrator who's with the company that's picked by the company who cheated you?
And when you ask people about binding arbitration and would you knowingly sign away your rights, they say, well, of course not. And then you ask them, well, do you have a cell phone? Do you have a gym membership? Do you have a credit card?
Do you know whether you've ever agreed to mandatory arbitration in any of your contracts?
I don't believe I ever have, no.
Do you own a credit? Would you have a credit card?
Well, maybe I have.
When you first sign a contract with a cell phone company or a credit card company or whatnot, there won't be any reference or any mention of the arbitration clause. But then at some point the company decides to add it. So what they do is they send out in incredibly tiny print a little booklet that they stick in with the bill. And what almost everybody does is you look at the bill and you throw everything else away. But that's where they send in the arbitration clause. And then what they say is if you ever use your phone again, or you ever use your credit card again, that you've supposedly agreed to mandatory arbitration. What's happened in America is that entire industries have all adopted mandatory arbitration clauses. You'll see them in credit card agreements, checking account agreements, lending agreements, cell phone contracts, virtually anything that's bought over the internet. Computers, books, records, virtually all nursing homes, nearly every contract to buy a new car, health clubs, tanning salons. I have a friend who took her cat in to be boarded while she went on vacation, and the kennel made her sign a mandatory arbitration clause that if they killed her cat or did something horrible to it, that she couldn't go to court.
You have no bargaining power. You as a consumer or a worker are forced into these things, and you really never had a choice in the matter.
Mandatory arbitration is fast becoming the rule rather than the exception. The practice of forcing employees to use arbitration has been on the rise.
There are several surveys that show that more than a third of the working people in America are bound to forced arbitration clauses. In fact, far more American workers are governed by mandatory forced arbitration clauses than are members of unions in modern America today.
I worked for Halliburton in Houston for a little bit over a year before I decided to go to Iraq. When I was in Iraq, Halliburton and KBR were the same company. Those that go over to Iraq get promoted when they come home also. I mean, my goal was to just work there forever. I was content there until everything happened. I was told that I would be housed in a little trailer house with one female on one side, another on one side, and then a bathroom shared in the middle. And when I got there, I was perplexed because I was put in a predominantly all-male barrack. I didn't see any females there. I emailed some of the managers that I knew from Houston, and I told them I was concerned that I wanted, to be moved into the living quarters that I was promised. And one guy emailed me back and just said, oh, you'll get over it, and then had their doors open, and some were in boxers, and they were catcalling. When I woke up, I was severely beaten. My chest was disfigured. I was bleeding between my legs. I was naked. I washed my hands and then I saw the bruises on my wrists, and I'm starting to put together that something major happened to my body. And then I go back up the stairs, down the hall, and I looked at my room and there was a man in the bottom bunk. And I don't remember if he was clothed or anything. I was so shocked that bits and pieces of it are gone from me. It was the worst moment in my entire life to actually see a man brazen enough to still be there in the room after raping me. And it was really hard, and I know now that the reason why he was still in the room was because he would be able to get away with it. I went to seek medical help, and at the Army doctor, she said that I had been penetrated both vaginally and anally, and that the tears down there were significant.
You've heard a lot about Halliburton lately. Criticism is okay. We can take it. Criticism is not failure. Our employees are doing a great job. We're feeding the soldiers. We're rebuilding Iraq. Will things go wrong? Sure they will. It's a war zone. But when they do, we'll fix it. We always have.
So then, two KBR security officers took me to it's been called a lot of things, shipping container, trailer. Essentially, I was imprisoned. There was two armed guards outside of my door. I was begging and pleading through the door to, let me get out of there. And finally, one of the guards out of sympathy let me use his phone. And I called my father, who contacted Congressman Ted Poe.
Well, it was almost unbelievable. Here she is, a young 19-year-old female, and according to her dad, she was locked up in one of these shipping crates. So the first thing that I thought should happen is get her out of that situation. Send the troops over to rescue her, so to speak. And the State Department, I thought, did a pretty good job.
After I was rescued by federal agents, they formed a meeting with KBR management. The management told me that I had two options. One, I could continue working there, or two, I could go home and be terminated. I tried to pursue my criminal case, and it didn't work. And then I tried to file a civil suit, and that didn't work out because of the arbitration clause in my employment contract.
No one would conceive that this would happen to them, first of all. And secondly, no one would conceive that this would be, oh, well then, the company that sent you over there and put you in this position where you were raped is also, you're just going to have to arbitrate with us secretly. I mean, I don't think anyone could possibly conceive that that would happen.
Well, whenever you take a case out of the court system, you're immediately put into a biased type of forum. Arbitration happens to be extremely biased.
Most arbitrations take place in secret. If you have a private judge, so if you have a credit card agreement, the credit card company picks who the arbitration company is going to be, and then the arbitration company picks an individual arbitrator to hear your case.
The arbitrator wants repeat business, and they only deal with you once, but they deal with the Bank of America or General Motors or whoever it is, the businesses. They deal with them day in and day out, and so they're going to tilt their decisions toward the businesses.
There have been a bunch of examples where if the arbitrator ruled in favor of a consumer or ruled in favor of somebody who was an employee, that they were blackballed and they never got to work again as an arbitrator. So they set up systems that are essentially rigged against the consumers.
Many studies show that consumers come out winning these cases maybe less than 10% of the time. They're almost always won by the bank or the credit card company.
It's impossible to find out what the reason is for an arbitrator ruling for one side or another. They just say, this side wins, this side loses, and that's it.
And there's no right to appeal. So I have to take the final judgment of one guy who's been picked by my credit card company to tell me that I'm going to end up having to pay.
Not okay with that.
Yeah, I'm not okay with that either.
No,
That's actually upsetting.
Transparency is a must in the judicial process, so if there's no oversight in that regard, I'd be pretty worried.
Until and unless Congress takes action with regard to restricting the use of these binding arbitration clauses, we're all going to be stuck with these clauses.
Senator Al Franken proposing the Pentagon shouldn't hire contractors that make their employees agree in advance not to sue if they're raped by coworkers.
I just started the Jamie Lee Foundation, and I've been trying to bring awareness to the situation to help others through my foundation.
So behind the scenes up to this point, you've been trying to pursue every legal avenue.
Oh, yeah.
I went public because I wanted to bring awareness to the situation, that there was a loophole in our justice system that needed to be fixed very quickly. If I could just, get this out there, what happened to me, that maybe, people would change the laws and how the laws would change.